The, the recording for this and all the Learning Life digital events available to our members on our page, where we have events added regularly. So Learning Life Digital is the web page. Then you've got the link at the bottom there. So we offer membership to individuals and also for internal learning departments to support individuals and also full teams on the development of their learning and functions within your organisation. So feel free to take some time to have a look at that, as well as the benefit of obviously the fact that you have access to these recordings. Where we address the top challenges of which we canvass from the community of learning leaders that we have about what your challenges are, and we craft and support organisations with putting together this type of content which you're about to receive from 𝘄𝗶𝗁𝗿. So yeah, this webinar will showcase how an organisation can utilise online e-learning to help support leadership programs and drive momentum. In summary, is there's a lot more detail there that's going to come up, but that in summary gives you an outline of the event. So yeah, thank you so much everybody from all over the world for joining us. I can see more comments coming in. See Jana has sound is working fine for me. Colin sorted his sound good, so glad you can hear Colin. But yeah, thank you so much for everybody for joining us today, taking your time out your day. We're going to give it a few more minutes just to allow the last people to sort of arrive in. I can see plenty of people coming into the event and taking the time out today. It's a 45-minute session from when we start. It's expected to be. Sometimes Q&A can go on a little bit longer, so if you're hanging on for that at the end, then you can certainly take the time to put your questions in the chat, where they'll be answered at the end of the event. And obviously you'll have the opportunity to link in with the speakers as well. And yeah, just to run through the speakers actually that we've got joining us, so to give a bit more time back for them. So starting with Steph Charlesworth, who is the Customer Delight Manager at 𝘄𝗁𝗿. So Steph brings a wealth of skill and experience. She's an ex-teacher with successful roles in cybersecurity and recruitment. She is laser focused on customer satisfaction and growth in her role, heading up the customer success at 𝘄𝗁𝗿. So a role I can definitely empathise with there. And then we're also going to be joined by Mckeown, who is the Business Support Manager at Climalife UK. Laura looks after people at Climalife UK for HR, L&D, and health and safety, well-being, and mental health perspective. As well as managing the office environment, Laura's passion is creating a working environment where people feel supported and can be themselves, which is a lovely thing to be able to empower people to do. So. And then we've also got Laura Robertson, who's joining us as well, who's a Chartered Financial Accountant Manager at Climalife UK as well. She's been 11 years in the business of accounting industry, 6 years with Climalife UK, starting as an assistant accountant, working up to the leadership role alongside studying for an ACCA qualification, which she's achieved. So congratulations to her. So yeah, we just got a few more minutes to go, so I'm just going to allow a little bit more time just for the final people to arrive. I can see we've got a strong number attending today, so thank you all for obviously the speakers all appreciate you taking your time out of your day to do this. So yeah. Looking at as the numbers are starting to peak now, I think I'm going to go to a position where I'm actually going to hand over to firstly Steph, who, if I can ask you to come off mute and pop your camera on, and I will introduce Steph into the room. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Richard. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today. We are looking forward to sharing our conversation with you and hopefully share some insights as well. We've got a poll just to get started. So Richard, if you could kick that poll off for us, please, just to sort of understand a little bit more about where you're all at. So yeah, how much support do your leaders get in your business? So we've gone for a percentage, so just to understand a little bit about where you're at. So whilst we're getting some of those in, yeah, just to reiterate, so we're excited about sharing some thoughts, understanding a little bit where we're coming from, sharing some insights and just our experiences really. And as part of this as well, towards the end of the conversation, we have planned in some time for questions. So as we are speaking today, if you do have any questions that you have, anything you want to ask us, please pop them in the chat, and we'll try and get around as many as we can towards the end of the session. But yeah, looks like we're getting some good responses, Richard.
It does, yeah. We've got a few more people still to pop in there, but yeah, feel free everybody to pop in your answer to this question of how much support do your leaders get in your business? So obviously subjective, but yeah, we can see the results coming in there. Shall I share them with everybody and you can comment on them?
Yeah, I think we're almost there, aren't we?
Yes, I've
Yeah,
got
let's
over
share those.
75% of those attending have registered. So I've shared that with the audience.
Great. So yeah, so it looks like there's a little bit of a spread, but most people, it looks like we have at least some kind of support, which is quite good. And then a little bit there towards the end that have quite a lot of support, so sort of 60% upwards. So that's quite reassuring to see, actually. I think it's a trend that's definitely going in the right direction, but there's definitely still a lot more to do. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, everybody. So if we can move on. Yes, we are here to talk about leveling up leaders. So what do we mean by this? So I'll get into that in a second, but I'm going to start by introducing Laura M, who is one of our wonderful customers at Climalife. So I'm going to start. Laura, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along today. So I am a business support manager at Climalife. So you probably haven't heard of us. We are industry-leading distributors of refrigerants, oils, and other chemistry products. So we work mainly in the 𝘄𝗶𝗁 industry, so try to say that quickly, which is the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration industry. So we provide things like the gas that goes in your car for your AC and supermarket refrigerants. So we have been working with IAM since 2021, the end of 2021, start of 2022. So yeah, here I'm excited to talk about future leaders today, and I will let Laura R, who is my colleague, introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Laura Robertson. Yes, I am the financial manager at Climalife. I started here as the account assistant, as it was mentioned earlier, and I did Laura's Future Leaders program, and with the help of eLearning as well, to kind of level up my own communication and different broad aspects of being able to lead my own team, because that's also new territory for me. And so yeah, recently I've become the manager, and that's my introduction really. Sorry, carry on. It's my first webinar, as you can tell.
Thank you, Laura. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your experiences a little bit later on. But when we're talking about leveling up leaders, I think generally speaking, there's some ideas that we have. It's generally supporting people into some kind of career progression. Looking at people who are seeking out continued professional development, as well as sort of understanding a little bit from a business perspective about how leaders can support the strategy and looking at what the business is aiming for. And then I think when you're planning these kinds of initiatives as well, it's not as easy as just going, okay, we're going to do some support and training, let's go. I wish it was that easy. But I think there's obviously a lot of things that go into that. So thinking about the resources that need to go into it, making sure that you're understanding what it is you're actually trying to achieve, your why are we creating this program? And then making sure you're getting the buy-in, so getting the stakeholders on board, making sure you've got champions across the business, so you're not just pushing that rock up the hill by yourself, as it were, right? So I'm very lucky at eLearning. I get to work with a whole host of different industries, whole host of different customers. So I'm very happy to share sort of some very other tips and tricks that I'm seeing across things. But I'm going to come to you, Laura, in particular, and just see if you could just give us a little bit more about your experience, when you're wanting to create and when you're wanting to implement this program. How did you start?
Yeah, so my background, so I joined Climalife in 2018, and I actually joined as an executive assistant. So I had no experience in HR, L&D or anything, and was suddenly given a whole load of stuff to look after, including HR, L&D, wellbeing. So I did 𝘄𝗶𝗿's level 3 HR qualification, and then went on maternity leave in 2020, came back in 2021 and was promoted to business support manager. So that was a really steep learning curve. Again, kind of everything was kind of thrown at me, as well as looking after our office and kind of health and safety and everything. So 2022, we had quite a big L&D budget for us. We're only a small company. There's only 22 of us in the UK. So we had quite a big budget. Our MD was really keen for the management team to get some development. So we planned that in. We had somebody externally coming in and do workshops with all of our managers and do coaching as well. So everyone got individual coaching sessions on the management team. And we also started Future Leaders, which is kind of what we're going to talk a bit more about today. I honestly felt like I should be on the programme, not leading it. It was very much an imposter syndrome going on. Kind of felt like I was learning along with them. So it was very much a collaborative way of kind of building it and making sure that we're doing things that we're finding useful for the people doing the program, but also sort of working with the line managers as well, and kind of making sure we're covering things that they thought would be useful. So yeah, 2023, we had like no L&D budget whatsoever. So we went from one extreme to the other. So everything was delivered in-house. So it was very much trying to find, as much free resource as we could, and sort of, good quality stuff that we could share. And then early this year, I completed my level 5 in organisational learning development. Hooray, it's done. So yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. So yeah, it's been a very sort of collaborative approach, really. I've always been a very people-centered person. Like, I want to help people do their best. So it kind of came very naturally to me to kind of work with people and pull out of them kind of what they wanted to learn. So, but it was definitely a steep learning curve.
Yeah, I can imagine. And also congratulations on surviving level 5. I think
yeah, I've just seen it well. Karen said that as well. Thank you very much.
Reiterating that, I think it's very well deserved. So yes, I guess just sort of on that then, how did you perhaps pick out that understanding of what that future leader looked like? How did you kind of find the people to put on the programme, I guess?
Yeah, so it very much came actually from our managing director. So he's very keen on making sure that people are getting development and, expanding themselves as much as they can. We are a small company, as I've said, and I will probably continue saying. So there are kind of limited traditional kind of progression pathways. So trying to find ways that we can progress people within their current roles is definitely challenging. So he was really keen for us to kind of look at how we could do that better, really. So yeah, it was I've totally forgotten the question, Steph, sorry.
That's okay. How did you identify people who were coming in, to use the program, basically?
Yeah, so there was kind of a two-pronged way of doing it. So I spoke to all the line managers and kind of got a feel for kind of who they thought would be good to be on the program. But then also I kind of had one-to-one chats with everyone across the business, which is easy to do when you're a small business, and kind of gauged their interest on progression and, kind of where they were. So, we've got people who aren't currently in management positions, but have been managers before. So this kind of program isn't, it's not going to be relevant for them. So the people who kind of have that ambition to want to be leaders and managers, that was kind of the people that we were aiming at.
Yeah, okay. And I think sort of just switching slightly still. So I think you sort of mentioned there about creating the pathways and making sure everybody had the right kind of sort of learning. As part of that, I think one of the things we've talked about a lot is the power skills. So I think sometimes people call them soft skills. We like the term power skills. Feel free to steal that if you want to. So how important was it to you to make sure that those kinds of skills were included as part of this program?
So I think definitely, and I think, I was on maternity leave in 2020, but certainly since coming back, I've seen such a massive change in how leadership has to work and has to engage with people and get people on board. So it's definitely, a massive thing to see. Not that it wasn't important before, but I think it's just become more important now.
Yeah.
Obviously kind of people's expectations around work and work-life balance and psychological safety and all that kind of thing. You know, you need those power skills to, you know, get people to do their best, to, you know, let you know when they're struggling, when they're having a problem. And yeah, you know, we try and have a really values-based culture. So we have our values plastered all around the office. And you know, really try and get everyone included in everything, and try and make everything we do as inclusive as we can. So, you know, we've looked at our recruitment process and all that kind of thing to make sure that we are getting everyone on board and giving everyone the best opportunity to progress. So yeah, those power skills are 100% the most important thing at the moment, I think.
Oh, I like to hear that. I guess as well, as part of this, the e-learning element, obviously we are an e-learning company, and I think that probably helped quite a lot from what, obviously I know we've helped quite a lot with that, but from your perspective, with it being e-learning, obviously you're a small company and all of that, how did that help you to implement this kind of program?
So we did have an e-learning platform before we used IAM, but it was very dry. And we found that people were kind of doing what they had to do and nothing else. So IAM, we started using, and people were like, what, you can learn like this? You know, it's really short. It's really engaging. It's funny. They're themed. I think the first one I kind of shared with the management team was Inspiring Action, and it's Robin Hood themed, and, you know, silly songs in it and all sorts. So, you know, it's just kind of, it's that kind of unique learning experience, I guess, from an e-learning point of view, and the fact that you can do it on video, or you can listen to a podcast, or you can read a PDF. So I think those different ways are really good as well. We've got a field-based sales team, so for them, they can listen to the podcast in the car if they want to. It just makes it easy for everyone to access it in the best way for them.
Yeah. Well, I think having that blended, you know, that blended approach, and I think one of our core themes is that storytelling. So obviously making the learning fun and different and a little bit engaging. I think all of those as well help to bring in, especially when you're learning new concepts, when you're sort of, you know, you've got perhaps new ideas or new ways of thinking, or even just reminders, I think, of, you know, stuff that perhaps you do when you're at the beginning of your career that you kind of, you know it, but you kind of forget that you know it potentially. And I guess I sort of, to touch on that bit as well from an accessibility point of view, if you could perhaps bring in from that aspect of the program as well. I don't know if you wanted to sort of develop that sort of idea that you spent time on.
Yeah, so last year when we had a sort of limited budget, we were trying to find, you know, free resources basically to use. We did quite a big program which is called Allyship in the Workplace, which is done by a company called Lean In, and we delivered that to everyone across the business. So it's 2 sessions and then some follow-up sessions, so really challenging people on their perceptions of things, where their privileges lie, and that was really, I would say, game-changing, to be honest. It did influence a lot of people to change how they talk at work. Conversations that are being had in the office are just totally different from how they were before. So to support that, we used some of IAM's 𝘄𝗶𝗿 courses to support that, and then we've continued that on into this year as well. So it's not kind of a one and done, it's you know, we're building on it as well. So we've got a couple of sort of EDI courses that are going on this year to kind of build that in as well. So yeah, trying to make inclusion and accessibility normal for everyone.
Yeah, and I think making sure that it's iterative as well is key. I think that's something that I see with a lot of other sort of businesses that I work with, is that recognition that this isn't a kind of program that you can create, it's done, it exists, it's going to be perfect forevermore. I think making sure that you have that iterative, right, let's have a look at these resources, you know, what's changed in the world, what do we need to make sure that we're covering, how can we, you know, make sure that we're keeping it relevant rather than you know, just creating something, and as nice as it would be to just know that it's there and it's ready, it is
That'll be our job done.
Yes. So Laura, you've been sat very patiently. It would be really great, I think, from your perspective, actually, just to hear hear your thoughts from obviously taking these kinds of courses.
Yeah, so I actually started using the IAM platform as a company requirement. Like Laura said previously, we've used different types of ones, and they were dry. They were quite, you learnt the key information. So we just did all the mandatory stuff like fire safety, health and safety, all those really important things that you need to do when you work in an office. And what really instantly captivated me as well, really, was, like Laura said, how different the modules were from anything else that we'd ever used in the past. It had all the key information in, but it was presented in such a way that it was so enjoyable because it was interactive and there were bite-sized modules, so you didn't feel like you were sat there for half an hour just absorbing information. You could actually do it alongside of kind of learning the content. So that was really interesting for me. And I'm actually, I actually have level 1 autism, and it's different for everyone, but for me, in my personal experience, I know that what I struggle with is communication and tone. And it was Laura's Future Leader program that, when it featured the communication and boundaries, it was so eye-opening for me. And I really wanted to develop a lot more on that. So it was Laura that signposted me to all of the other content that's available on there. And what I loved about it is that there wasn't just one module on communication or one module on boundaries. There was so many like bite-sized modules, and you could pick out the things that you wanted to specifically learn, and you could take transcripts from there or listen to the podcast on the way home on the drive if you didn't get enough time to do it during your working day. There was so much available on there, and you'd also end up finding something that you didn't specifically want to learn to begin with. Like, you go on there to find something and your attention's so diverted to all these different types of modules in the same section that it's just so unlimited for me. And especially since becoming a leader myself, I realized that you really need to have the courage to have different conversations, all sorts of conversations with stakeholders, your own team, because you kind of go from being one of the team to actually having so much more responsibility. And if you're anything like myself and your communication isn't as good as you want it to be, I honestly spent most of my life trying to learn social cues like it's a language, and that's never going to work. It's never going to work, no matter how much you try to tell yourself it will. And I learned so much from your platform. I now signpost my team to it as well. If there's ever something that they want to kind of go through, but they don't really want to talk to you about it yet, then I kind of put them in that direction. Even if I have like a one-to-one coming up, I can look at your transcripts that I download after doing the module, so I can constantly refresh myself on it as well. So that's more beneficial for me personally and for my team member, because I think you get so caught up on kind of the business requirements that you forget don't forget, but you kind of lose the track of it's a person as well. So for me, it's certainly aided in my progression from becoming part of the team to leading the team, which I actually really enjoy doing. I thought it was going to be a massive hurdle for me to learn, and actually it's come quite organically. I say organically, not really, because obviously your platform helped me so much, but it doesn't feel like a pressure anymore. Like, I've got something I can constantly refer to. So it's certainly made a difference in my confidence, and I personally think it's brilliant.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's really good to hear how it's used in practice. And I think as well, Laura M, I think it's probably testament to all the hard work you've put in as well on the background to make sure that what you're creating delivers, really.
Yeah, I think it's certainly kind of using the e-learning to support the other learning that we're doing. So the Future Leaders is delivered face to face. We started as once a quarter, it's now once every other month. So we, at the end of each year, we kind of had like a planning session. So we'll kind of go through them with, what kind of things would be useful. I'll speak to line managers, I'll speak to the MD and kind of find out, where the kind of key development areas are for the business, I guess, and kind of make sure we're covering those. So being able to do a session on, say, empathy, and we'll have an hour and we'll be talking about things and we'll watch videos and practice different skills, and then to be able to say, actually, we've got IAM and there's some courses on empathy on there as well, so they can support that as well. So using both, and yeah, like Laura says, the the supporting documentation kind of with the courses, so you can print those off and have them to hand, so you can use them in one-to-ones with team members, and yeah, it's really good.
Good. And I guess as well, just to sort of build on that, you were saying, is sort of thinking about how you sort of overall, from a company perspective, like the overall positive impact, and sort of how you're sort of perhaps seeing that return on investment now, now that we've had that.
Yeah, so I think it's really hard to kind of know what the return on investment is, because most of the investment is my time, and I'm here anyway. So, it is, but I think, we are, Laura, for instance, has kind of graduated from the program. So now Laura has moved from future leaders into the management team. And we're certainly seeing, we set up this future leaders team knowing that we have limited promotion opportunities for management positions. So actually, although we're not necessarily seeing that many, because we don't have that many managers, I'm seeing a lot of team members leading on things that you wouldn't have seen before. So they're taking charge of projects, they're having conversations with people that we wouldn't have necessarily seen before. So I think that kind of engagement and getting people really bought into the company and wanting to, do their best here, definitely you can see how it's impacted that, I think.
I'm excited to see the next step as well. Have you got any future plans? Have you sort of got any sort of the next steps with it? Maybe Laura R can get involved with taking some of that.
Yeah, so I mean, Laura's obviously stepped away from it now and is in the management team, but I was joking with her the other day that we were going to have to get her back into future leaders to kind of talk about her progress and kind of how that's gone, because I think that would be good. So yeah, this year we've kind of sent the future leaders. We asked the future leaders if they wanted to go to an event. So they've been to an external event where they were talking about, I didn't go, so I clearly can't remember what it was about. I think it was kind of positive mindset and all that kind of getting your team positive as well. We've had our managing directors come into one of the sessions and kind of talked about his career path and kind of the skills he had to develop at various stages. And kind of talking about what are the really important skills to develop now as well, because he's obviously seen, he's been with us for 10, 11 years now, so he's seen how leadership's kind of developed. So hearing it from his point of view, I think has been really important. And then we've got some external people coming in as well to do courses around sort of growth mindset and various other things as well. So kind of it is changing a little bit, and that there's kind of, it's more than just me doing it now, which I think is probably good for them because they're bored of my face. But it's good to kind of change it up a bit, I think.
Well, yes, good. We are sort of coming to the end of our initial chat, so just as a reminder, if you do have any questions that you want to ask and any of us, please do pop them into the chat. It'd be good to sort of see if there's anything that we can answer, or any detail we could share, perhaps, if anybody wants to know anything that we perhaps skimmed over that you want a little bit more detail on. But yeah, I mean, I guess Laura R, knowing what you know now, would you recommend these kinds of programs? Would you sort of say that they're something that you would sort of advocate for having in other businesses?
I would definitely. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Of course I can. Having gone through it,
yeah,
would you say that these kinds, would you recommend other companies perhaps if they don't have it, or if they
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, because like I said previously, what I really enjoy about it, and what I think sets you aside from everyone else that is really positive, is that it's so broad, but it's not one subject. Does that make sense? It's every time I do a module, I just want to start the next one. I don't get to the end of it and go, oh, that took ages, and I don't come away going, I can't even remember what I just heard or read. Like, you kind of read it and go, that was really informative. What's the next one about? And then you kind of just keep going forward with it. So, and I guess also knowing that you can choose. Obviously, companies have their mandatory requirements, of course, but knowing that you can choose the different things. And you're not always told the path you have to go down. You can just look for them all, and then, like I said, because each subject is so broad, you're not just learning everything about the one subject. You can just pick and choose and customize it to yourself. And I fully would recommend 100%.
I think as kind of the Future Leaders program, I made sure at the end of each year we were kind of having I was having one-to-ones with everyone who was in the Future Leaders program, and we would kind of talk individually about kind of what their needs were as well and what they wanted to learn. So if I could weave that into what we were doing in Future Leaders, I would. But then if there was kind of things that were more specific to that person, then seeing where there was kind of additional, you know, resources we can use. So like Laura says, you know, we could use 𝐼AM, you know, we've used some of the Open University free courses, you know, all sorts of things, just trying to find out, you know, where there's things that we can use. So yeah, trying to make it individual as well as kind of like, you're on this program and this is what we're doing. You know, yeah, just kind of realizing that there's different people who will need different things.
Yeah. I think having that blended approach, I think that's something that works really well with a lot of other customers that I work with as well. So, you know, recognizing that it's not a one size fits all. It's not all going to be everybody to this one module and then everybody is going to be done and it's easy. Like, you know, having those choices, I think definitely helps. Well, thank you both very much for sharing that. We are going to move into the Q&A section. So yeah, please do keep putting your questions into the chat. But the very first question I'm going to ask is going to come to you, Laura M. And it's, how easy did you find it to get buy-in when you were building this program out?
So it was actually a very mixed one. So as I think I said earlier, the idea kind of originally came from our managing director. So from a kind of senior leadership point of view, well, that was easy because that was already done. The management team was actually slightly more challenging. And I think, again, because we're a small company and this kind of, yeah, limited management roles for people to progress into, some of the managers was kind of like, well, we're going to develop people and then there's nowhere for them to go. So why do we bother? So kind of persuading them around that, you know, it's what people expect now. You know, people want that development. Certainly the younger generations, you know, it's really good for attention, engagement, all that kind of, you know, jazz. And actually, we're constantly trying to make ourselves better. So actually, although we're a small company, we can train people on stuff, and it might spark an idea that, you know, makes something massively different for everyone. So yeah, there was definitely quite a lot of persuasion needed around the management team. And as I say, we kind of got people involved in whether they were interested in doing it. So from that point of view, it wasn't a, you're going on this course, this, you know, you're part of this now. It was a kind of, you know, we think you might enjoy this and you might learn something from it. Do you want to do it? So it wasn't kind of a mandatory, you are now on the Future Leaders program. It was definitely a collaborative thing.
Yeah, okay. I like that. I like the idea that it's not necessarily something that you're building and then saying, right, come along for the ride, but having that collaboration, I think is, I think again, what you were saying about how people, what people expect and that kind of thing. I think it's very much the way that the world works now is that conversation rather than the mandatory linear approach, I think, of perhaps the past. Okay, we've got lots of good questions coming in now, so thank you very much, everybody. So the first one is from Lauren, and she asks, how many modules do you have in person, and balancing it with the difference with the e-learning? So do you use the same tool, the same theory? How do you balance that in person and e-learning?
So for just the Future Leaders program, we have 6 sessions over the year and they're all in person. And then the kind of e-learning stuff is very much down to the individuals and what they kind of think will support that. So I can signpost them to stuff, but it's not kind of, you have to go and do this. It's like, okay, we've covered this today. This kind of follows on, or this might, you know, join that in. So there's kind of nothing mandatory there. From a kind of wider L&D thing across the business, this year we've set everyone, I think, 4 modules to do on e-learning, on 𝐼AM, and 2 of them are mandatory. So I think we've done 𝘄𝗶𝗁𝗶𝗵, which is hilarious because it's Oasis themed. So, you know, if you're 90s, you'll enjoy that one. And the other one is the importance of an inclusive workplace. So again, kind of following on from that EDI. And then, yeah, we've asked people to do another 2, and they can choose whatever that is on the platform. So they might choose to do GDPR, they might choose to do something around mental health. It could be, you know, anything. But just to try and get people a bit more engaged on that. Then face-to-face learning, yeah, we've got a few courses throughout the year that people are doing. We're just about to finish. I think tomorrow is our last session on resilience training. That's a face-to-face one that everyone across the business is doing. So it's, yeah, it is a real mix of kind of what we do. I wouldn't say it's quite 50-50, but it's probably almost there.
Yeah, and I think having that learner led as well. So, you know, you've got some stuff that you'll sort of say, hey, look, this is what we're focusing on this year, but you know, opening it up and having that wider, and here's some stuff you might be curious about. I think that also helps to sort of underpin that learning culture as well, I think.
Yeah, I try and do I call them nudges. Like once a week I send out a little thing on Teams, and you know, some weeks it will be something about, you know, how your brain learns and stuff. Other weeks it will be an idea for a course people could do on I Am Learning. It just kind of, yeah, nudging them on kind of things that they might find interesting. So yeah, getting them curious about stuff.
Okay, next question is, do you have any examples of how you structured the Future Leaders programme?
Not really, because there isn't kind of a set structure as such. We kind of started with 1 session a quarter, and that session would be based around either a topic that had kind of come from the previous session, or it would be something that the line managers or the managing director kind of suggested would be a good subject to cover. So there wasn't really a structure as such. One thing I was going to say earlier is we don't kind of have like an intake date as such. So we have people on the program, we have people drop off the program, we have other people come into the program. So every session can be different. We had quite a stable team for quite a long time. So it was, you know, the same people every time, but now it's kind of a mixture. So it does, yeah, there's no kind of fixed structure. We just kind of go with the flow and see what people need, what people are interested in. You know, if there's something in particular that we talk about and it really sparks an interest and is something that people really want to develop, we might do an extra session on that. So we've done 2 sessions in empathy since we started, because the first session was great, but it's such a big topic that actually you need to do a little bit more on it. So yeah, there's not a set structure, it's just very flexible.
It does sound like you're being very responsive to what the business actually needs. So I think that perhaps leans into the iterative process that we were talking about earlier, in that rather than creating something and sticking rigidly to it, actually sort of going, hey, actually the business seems to be needing some extra support on this at the minute. Let's build into that. So I think that's just shows.
Yeah, and I think that's probably part of the benefits of being a smaller company, is that we can do that. You know, if we were multi-millions, you know, and we were spending, you know, hundreds of thousands on a program, it would be very different. But that's, you know, the perks of what we can do, and I think we can be flexible. So that's what we try to do.
I've got a good one here about, I think it might be good to get both your perspectives on this. So what would you say were the benefits for your future leaders? So perhaps from somebody who's done it, Laura R, what benefit, you know, the key benefit you've found from doing it in your day-to-day role now, and Laura M, perhaps how you found it perhaps impacting from a business perspective, the key benefits. I don't know who wants to start, Laura.
Do you want me to go first? So I know you asked about my role now, but in my experience when I was doing the Future Leaders program before I was a manager, I didn't know that the management position was even in line for me. So that wasn't kind of my perspective when I was doing the course. As Laura mentioned before, we don't, because we're not a massive company, we don't always have like a line for progression for everyone. But she's absolutely right in saying that you can always develop yourself, because to be a leader, you don't have to be managing a team to be a leader. Just being a team member is you can lead someone, because say for example you've got an accounts payable department that's one person, accounts receivable department that's one person, you're still leading that section, and you can kind of use your own personal strengths for someone where it's not a strength. Again, going back to what I said about the communication thing, I know I keep going on about it, but to someone else here, it might be so easy, it just comes so naturally. But for someone like me, it doesn't. And I've had to really learn that. And now that I'm a manager, I can really see how important that is. So yes, you might turn around next year and be promoted yourself and have the opportunity to be a manager, but you really need to, I don't even know how to explain what I mean. Kind of just seeing the bigger picture, I guess, and the Future Leaders Programme. I would happily go back in, like Laura said, to talk about my experience with it with other of my other team members, to kind of, I find it really difficult to actually explain what I try to mean. It's just beneficial. It's just massively beneficial for every individual, whether you're a manager or not, whether you even want to be a manager. Because to me, when I got the promotion, I was going, oh my God, yes, I'm really, really ready for this. Work perspective, can't wait. And then I thought, I've got to lead a team here. There's actually a team that I need to actually lead. But I was already doing that. It's just now officially my responsibility. And the Future Leaders course already made me ready for it without me even realizing it. So that's kind of my perspective on it at this moment in time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, you know, from a business point of view, I've definitely seen a lot of the people that have been on the Future Leaders Programme have become more confident in themselves. So it might be that they're more comfortable with having conversations or communicating with people who are, you know, higher up than them in the company. It could be that they're more confident at, you know, going back to the kind of allyship, you know, if they hear something, they're more confident to kind of say, actually, we shouldn't be saying that anymore. And I think even just seeing the influence that members of the team can have now and having influence on their managers is actually a really good, and you can kind of see how that's changing the culture. And I think, yeah, that's kind of the impact that I've seen.
Thank you both very much. I think it's I think Aina's put in there a very good reminder. You don't need to be a manager to be a leader. So I think you articulated yourself very well there, Laura, don't worry. I think we've got time for one more question. So I think you talked a little bit about sometimes you had lots of budget, sometimes you had no budget. So how did you balance that in terms of delivery versus your budget to make sure that perhaps, you know, learning still progressed and learning was still going on when you perhaps were a little bit more financially challenged, shall we say?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. And I think just trying to find resources that, you know, good quality resources that are free or very cheap is always a challenge. So I think, you know, last year when we didn't have that much budget, we had an idea of kind of things that would be nice to do, but it was very much a kind of, let's just be flexible and see what resources we can get, as well as trying to find stuff that was kind of relevant. So, you know, like the allyship course that we did, the EDI thing was kind of very much on my radar as something that we needed to do a bit more training around. And then this course popped up and I was like, it's going to be really challenging. And it was, you know, for me, it put me totally out of my comfort zone leading those kind of sessions. But actually the change that's come out of it and the conversations that are being had now are so different that actually you don't need to spend loads of money to do something that changes how people think or how people act, or, you know, learning something new. You can do it on a limited budget, but it's a challenge. It's nicer to have more budget, don't get me wrong. I'd rather have, you know, be able to go here and say, right, yeah, let's go with, you know, this brilliant course. But yeah, sometimes you don't have that. So yeah,
lots of glitter.
Yeah, lots of glitter, and just, yeah, like supporting it with other stuff. So, you know, we've done like various other stuff kind of across the business. So last year we did a read along of Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. Again, that was, I say free. Our managing director decided that he would buy everyone a copy of Dare to Lead, so we had that expense, but, you know, that kind of thing was free really for us to do. And then, yeah, Future Leaders, we've also got a leadership library, so we get secondhand books, or people bring books in about leadership or business and people can borrow those. So there are lots of things you can do on a limited budget. And yeah, just trying to sort of diversify a bit, I guess, and having different options for people to find ways of learning that suit them and things that they want to learn. So a whole broad spectrum of all sorts and lots of glitter.
No, I like that. I'm also partial to anything that involves books, to be honest. So
Yeah, do love a book.
Well, thank you both so much for your time today. I think you've shared some really, really great ideas, and you've both been very vulnerable as well. So thank you very much for being open and honest as part of this. We do have, I think, some resources from IAM that we're going to share around to everybody who's been part of the webinar. And if you do want any support, or if you have a question, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or get in touch with any of us. More than happy to sort of have a little bit of an offline conversation. But yeah, thank you everybody so much for joining everybody today. And Richard, I'm going to hand back to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Steph, and thank you to Laura and Laura for the time you've taken today. That was a great event, and yeah, so I can see, Ravana, you've raised your hand. You may well have pressed the wrong button when you went to the emoji, but if you have anything that you want to say, please feel free to ask in the comments. But yeah, Steph, Laura and Laura, thank you so much for your time today. I'm just going to share an exit slide here with you. But while I do that, if you are exiting, you will see a survey pop up. If I can ask you to just complete that, we obviously really appreciate your feedback. So yeah, please do that for me. And yeah, and obviously for the team as well, which I'll share with them. Any comments you have, obviously there's my email address, so that you can obviously send any feedback that you may have around this event. But it really just leads me to say a huge thank you to everybody for joining today, including the speakers. You know, you guys have taken your time out of your day, but also all the participants. So thank you to everyone for the time that you've taken, and for obviously preparing the event as well. So yeah, and yeah, so we have more Learning Live digital events upcoming. I think we've got one with 𝘁𝗶𝗁𝗶 next week. It's a week today actually, so that's coming up. Please keep an eye on the website, as well as for any other announcements we have. But thank you again all for your time, and I wish everyone a fantastic afternoon, and hope to see you again soon. Take care.